The expenses and what to cut, after you track them, you got to trim them. To do the same thing you've always done and expect a different result just because we prayed for it, it's kind of stupid. You got to change your habits to get a different result. I can't continue to spend more than I make and expect to get out of debt. And I know some of you are sitting here thinking, you know, I really can't trim any expenses. Some of you are right. Jeff, you guys have probably seen this where some budgets are really lean. I've had some men and women that had to go get second jobs to get out of this bondage. Some of this stuff takes some temporary pain to get where you want to go. So don't think that this eliminates all pain. It doesn't. Matter of fact, it probably creates more because you got to check your pride and ego at the door, and that's so hard to do. I really don't make light of that. I'm going to tell you, it's hard to do. It's hard to really be transparent. But you know what's cool about the Jubilee group? Makes it so much easier when there's sin in our lives to do that. Because if we can't even do that with our finances, how am I going to do that when I'm really struggling with a sin in my life? Well, this makes it a little easier. Because I've kind of, for whatever reason, it seems money's that last topic that just can't tell you what I make. Oh, we're just not going to go there. I mean, that seems to be the cardinal sin in the Catholic Church, I guess. But anyway, after you trim the accountability there, the next item there is be accountable. What does that mean to be accountable? What does that mean? To me, in Acts chapter 2, accountable means if Jeff is struggling and I'm thriving, I hope Alec holds me accountable to help Jeff. That's accountability. If he doesn't have it and I do, he says, Dad, you said you love Jeff and he needs something and you got it. Are you going to step up and do what you're supposed to do? Man, that's hard sometimes. It's hard all the time. It never really comes easy. Tim Beasley, the guy I was telling you about, is also my best friend. I had to tell him last week. I'm an elder at the church, so he technically works for me. And I had to tell him something I didn't think he did right. And that's hard to tell your best friend when he works for you, you know. But you know what? He loved it. He ate it up. He said, you're right, I was wrong. And I'm going to fix that. I got an email right before we started here where he fixed it. He went to the person he had offended, and he fixed it. And he made it right. And so accountability is hard. It's probably one of the hardest parts, but it's the reason that this works. And by the way, credibility is key. This doesn't just work in Oak Island. We've got because we started in other little churches across Arkansas, have done some of this in Missouri and now North Carolina. We lose count, but probably over 75, 80 families have been through this process. To my knowledge, we've got not even a handful of families that have gone back into debt. So it works. It works. It takes 2 or 3 years, but it works. Unless you guys get really aggressive and start selling houses and doing crazy stuff and downsizing. And we had a group in Siloam Springs that they were fanatics. They started selling cars and newer cars and got old cars and did some things, and theirs went like 1.5 years. And they didn't have any real high income earners. We got to practice grace in these groups. I think I've talked about that already. These groups, you can't, judgmental and legalism went away with the cross. So we need to leave it buried with Christ. But we're tempted, just like the Pharisees were, to grab it back again, but we can't do that. Another important dynamic of this Jubilee group, as Karen comes in and shares with me, John, I've got $5,000 in credit card bills. I've got medical bills. Jeff's getting ready to get laid off work. Nobody knows it yet. Okay. And I go and break that confidence. Wow, we just ruined the whole deal. Just ruined the whole deal. Now, the group accountability, and I don't know exactly how you guys do it. We did everything completely wide open in front of 7 families. And that was really good. It was hard to get there, but it was really good. Other groups have done it different. Some do it more one-on-one with leadership. Some do it in total group. We never violated the integrity of that group, and it's been so blessed. Those are some of my dearest friends and people I would go to like that, and we've got the best spiritual bond as well of any family in families in our church. Those are the closest. Even people that have moved off or even gone to other fellowships are still very close brothers and sisters in Christ. So confidence is key. One more thing is, well, a lot of people ask the question, well, what happens if Jeff and Karen come in here and they bring $50,000 worth of debt, and we go along here and they get their debt paid off, and then they bail out and go back and get in debt? Well, I hate that, and I still love Jeff and Karen, and we still fellowship together. We're still brothers and sisters in Christ. But when Jeff comes back a year later crying and says, I want back in the group, please, Jeff, I love you, the answer is no. I'll help you if your family needs food, clothing, or shelter, because I love you, and that's benevolence. Our church will help you. We'll do whatever. But the Jubilee, we can't go there, because if we ever do, and again, this is not to be legalistic, but if we ever do that for one family, what's to keep everybody from going back in debt and coming back and asking? So from just a practical standpoint, it is really a one-time, once out of debt working through, because it just violates the integrity of the whole group when we all go out and get debt. Because one of the principles is, well, people say, golly, I don't have an extra $500 laying around if my water heater busts and I got to call a plumber to come fix it. Well, that's why you're supposed to bring it to the group. So when your water heater breaks, instead of paying off Visa that month, the group buys a new water heater. And you take care of those needs as they arise. So the debt continues to be a principle we follow, but emergency needs take precedence over debt payments. Because, I mean, we got to make the minimum payments. We don't get away with not paying someone's bills. But anyway, so that, in a nutshell, is pretty much the Jubilee ministry. Now, the way it works is we bring all, if this is a Jubilee group, everybody brings their bills in. You bring all your debts to the table. And we don't care who's got what debt, and it doesn't matter if it's $1 million. Doesn't matter if it's 100,000. Whatever it is, it is. We're all trying to work through it together. And if we went all the way around the table and everybody had a dollar